make me wanna
Hey Bills fans, Bills Mafia, and Sabres draft fans, what is up? Welcome to another episode of the Circling the Wagons podcast, the only podcast that thinks the Sabres should have won the lottery every time they came in last place. We have a ton of things to discuss tonight. If you're new to our podcast, check out our draft recap podcast where I interviewed Ryan Talbot of NewYorkUpstate.com to talk about Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, and all of the Bills draft picks. In this episode, though, we are going to talk Bills offseason, our new podcast logo, and other Bills artwork we've created and where you can find them, the Sabres, and a music, movies, and video games podcast hosted by another Bills fan, Nick, from the Torrent podcast. Nick, it is great to have you on the podcast. How are you doing?
Great, man. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Good. No problem. I'm glad we could finally have you on. I know we've been trying to hook up for a while.
Yeah.
Know you're a big fan of the podcast.
I am, actually, yes.
And so we got in contact, and it's good to have you on. It's something a little bit different. You know, we don't normally talk some of that stuff, but I've got in contact with you. You are a Bills fan, you're a Sabres fan, and you do some really good graphic art, and you host your own podcast. So it's like, you know, kill four birds with one stone.
Yeah.
So before we get into the Bills specifically as it relates to the draft,
Sure.
The offseason, just a couple of quick news and note items. The Bills will officially retire Thurman Thomas's number 34 jersey on Monday Night Football against the Patriots on October 29th, which is kind of nice. They hadn't really retired any jerseys when Ralph Wilson was the owner, so this is kind of a good thing they're doing. Definitely overdue.
For sure.
Next news item, which is kind of interesting: the Carolina Panthers were just sold for $2.3 billion. So when Terry Pegula bought the last NFL franchise that has been for sale, is the Buffalo Bills, as we all know, in 2014, he bought it for $1.4 billion. Which I believe at the time it was said to be worth $1.1 billion or so.
Okay, so a lot of people probably think he overpaid for a little bit.
Oh yeah, everyone was making fun of him because first of all, you're buying the Bills, and then second of all, you're overpaying for him.
Right.
Which I always loved his explanation for it. It was more of like, well, you know, I got what I wanted, so of course I didn't overpay for it.
Didn't he say like I can just go dig another mine or
dig
something
another
like
natural gas or whatever.
Yeah.
I could frack some more.
Yeah, I can go frack some more, yeah.
I could make other people's water turn into fire or whatever.
that probably wouldn't fly today in today's political
climate.
Not at all, right?
3 years ago, we were much more much less PC or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So he would say, I just drill another well or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it was funny because people were saying it was a big deal then that he overpaid, but now you get, you know, it's almost twice as what Terry Pegula paid for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, so what did you say he bought it at?
1.4, and they sold it for 2.3.
That's not, I mean, respectively speaking, that's not like terribly overpaying. It's not like he paid $2 billion for 1.1. You know what I mean?
No, exactly, and that was 3 years ago, man.
Yeah.
See, that's how it's a couple of things. I think it's the fact that NFL franchises just really aren't up for sale that often.
Yeah.
And people really want them.
Who was saying he overpaid? Was it like analysts around the league, or was it like fans?
Like Forbes, Forbes
okay.
Values each franchise in the NFL and every sports league, like the New York Yankees.
Well, everything besides New York and LA is just flyover anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Well, unless you're Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys are worth.
Oh yeah, and Dallas. Sorry,
Dallas.
Excuse me.
So I just thought that was funny. It was a big thing on Twitter. But yeah, so obviously Terry Pegula didn't pay that much, and I'm sure, as you can see, it's worth that much. If he were to sell it right now, he would make, 80% or whatever he paid for it.
Oh yeah, yep.
On top of what he paid for it. So it's just like the time like Ralph Wilson bought the Bills for, I believe, like $25,000. His family sold it for $1.4 billion.
Yeah.
50 years later. It's insane.
Talk about a return on investment.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you've always been a Sabres fan, Nick.
Yeah.
But just recently you became a Bills fan in the middle of the drought. Like a lot of us became Bills fans. Either we were, born into it with family or whatever, we're from the region. And but you just became one in the middle of like probably one of the worst eras of like being a Bills
season.
fan.
Nobody on the team was likable. You're just like,
It's just depressing. Depression.
Yeah.
Just darkness. We hated ourselves. We hated our team. No, so you kind of became a fan at this point, a very low point, which is, you obviously weren't a bandwagon fan.
For sure.
You would say that.
I could definitely say I'm not a bandwagon fan.
But I love hearing like these origin stories. So tell me exactly, like, how did you become a Bills fan?
Yeah. Well, like many things sports in my life, it all started, like you said, with the Sabres. I've been a huge Sabres fan for a really long time. And, as I started my full-time job after college, I wanted to listen about the Sabres. I wanted to hear people talk about the Sabres. I wanted to hear what people were saying about the Sabres, what people were thinking about the Sabres. And so naturally you gravitate to WGR and like the Buffalo sports talk and everything. And it's inevitable not to hear Bills talk when you listen to that stuff. Like they're almost synonymous. So I would slowly start to get invested. I would hear little things and I'm like, all right, well, now I would get excited with them a little bit. So I'm like, all right, well, now I got to check out the game on Sunday. And then I slowly found myself starting to get more and more invested in the team, like watching, like caring more. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I just bought a Bills t-shirt. I guess I'm a Bills fan now. And then kind of going back to the conversation we were just having where, the Pagulas bought the Bills. Well, they had already owned the Sabres. So now they're pretty much one giant organization. They rolled out that whole one Buffalo kind of thing. And I kind of bought into it. I liked that whole community. And then I started going to Bills games. I start to get familiar with the Bills Mafia, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then
these are my people.
Like I like all these people. Like they're cool. And I have a ton of friends who are already Bills fans. So now I was all part of their group. And I've always liked sports. Like it's not like I was not a football fan. I just didn't have a team that I rooted for. And now I do, which was awesome. So I came in, I think.
Was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
It's maybe a little bit more than that. It was right before the it was like between the Fitz and the EJ Manuel transition, like right in there, which is arguably some of the worst, like the deepest pits of the drought. Like everyone's just like, well, we're never winning anything, so it's fine.
I'd argue that was the peak of quarterbacking in Buffalo Bills history. EJ Manuel and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Right. I mean, right up there with Trent Edwards and JP Losman, really.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into quarterbacking in a little bit, but I appreciate that, honestly. Like it takes one thing. Like you look at Patriots fans now, and if you're like your age and you become a Patriots fan, it's like, well, you're just a bandwagon fan. Like even if you're not, even if you really truly enjoy the team or you might have liked them even before Tom Brady, like you're just considered a bandwagon fan. You are the exact opposite.
Yes.
Is there an exact opposite of a bandwagon? You are that person.
We got to coin a phrase by the end of the episode of the exact opposite of a bandwagon.
Like instead of hitching yourself to a bandwagon, you just throw yourself from a train or something. Like a train going from something completely positive and happy, and you just throw yourself off of it.
Yeah, it's like the meat wagon, like in medieval days, they're just wheeling carts of dead people, and you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna
jump on.
Maybe it'll work out.
Like Monty Python.
Yeah.
But so you're a Bills fan. Sorry, do you want to add more to that?
No, I mean, now I think I'm so invested in both Buffalo sports franchises. Like I can't go back. Like when I was really young, I used to be like a Broncos fan because they were amazing, and like John Elway was amazing, and if the Bills ever like, I don't know, if they did something to make me hate them, I don't think I could root for another team. Like it's just part of like my essence now. It's like, oh well, I gotta root for Buffalo. I gotta root for Western New York. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Yeah.
I like that. So let's talk draft.
Okay.
What did you think of the draft? The Bills, obviously, first day they drafted Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds. When you came to work the next day, what were your thoughts on that pick? It's particularly Josh Allen. I think universally everyone really likes Tremaine Edmonds, so I won't even discuss that pick. But what did you think of the Josh Allen pick?
Hated it. Just gonna come on and say hated it.
Yeah.
I've since cooled off on it, but I was never a fan of the sentiment where you're going to pick a quarterback based on the type of weather you have in your city. And we heard that a lot through the whole draft process and talking about quarterbacks is like, well, Josh Allen's got a big arm and he can throw in the weather. And that whole thing I loathe entirely with my whole being. I just don't think you should draft a quarterback based on the weather of your city. Like, does it play a big factor? Yeah. Are we worse? Do we live in Antarctica? No. We live in Western New York. We're not any worse than like Chicago or Buffalo or Green Bay rather.
Yeah.
And so I think and coming out initially, he had the lowest completion percentage stats. And I kind of want more of a a flashier offense. I want a guy who can thread the needles, and I want to see something we haven't seen in Buffalo for a while. And I know I'm a relatively new fan compared to a lot of your listeners out there, but I've watched football enough to know like what the Bills' kind of MO is when it comes to playing football, and I wanted something different. I didn't want a run-heavy offense because it's going to snow in January or something like that. Like
you want something exciting.
I want something exciting. Yeah, I want to enjoy watching my favorite team.
You want to see the Bills air it out. You want to see long passes. You want to see. Now that's what, because you haven't been a fan since you were younger, and you didn't live through the Jim Kelly days, and you didn't see like Jim Kelly bombing it to Andre Reed and James Lofton and Don Beebe, like the good days. So I think that's impressive that you even want that, even though you haven't seen that. But you've seen other teams. You've seen Aaron Rodgers. You've seen literally almost every other team do that.
Yeah, like I said, it's not like I wasn't watching football before that. I was still watching it. You know what I mean? I was still watching it on Sundays, and so you see all these great quarterbacks, and like even last year, like you watch Carson Wentz play, and you're just like,
jeez, yeah.
You're like,
what's that like?
What's that like? Yeah. But no. So like, I came into work the next day, and I'm just like grumpy. I think everyone, all the other Bills fans in the office, grumpy. They're just like, I can't believe they passed up like Rosen or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because he voices his opinion a little bit more than the other quarterbacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But since I'm cooled on it now, I don't want this kid. I'm not gonna like root against this kid. Like, he's on our team now. He's on a team I like. So I want him to do amazing. I want him to prove everybody wrong. So I hope he does.
I really try to think about, because I was very low. I was super grumpy. I think that would be an accurate assessment for a lot of Buffalo Bills fans. We were very grumpy.
Yeah.
And I keep trying to think of like logically why that is, because I've never seen a Wyoming game personally. Right. And I've never seen a UCLA game personally. I'm just not that big into college football.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are.
Yep.
I think it's tough to do NFL and college football, to be honest. But
I would agree. Yeah.
But so I'm thinking in my head, like, why am I feeling this way? And I know on GR they were like really, really down on Josh Allen. Yeah. Like, I mean, the day before the draft, I was listening, and they were saying, if Josh Allen is picked when Josh Rosen is on the board, I'm just gonna, like Jeremy was talking about that, and I completely get that. I'm not, but like that just forms your own opinion. Yes. Because if and so it's that. So I'm like trying to like crime scene it. Like, why am I feeling this way? Yeah. So I'm also thinking one of the big reasons along with that is because Josh Allen represents a lot of the things that we've had in quarterbacks that have failed over the last 20 years or whatever since Jim Kelly. Yeah. So you have a guy with a big arm who's unpolished. Okay. Right. So that's like E.J. Manuel.
Yep.
E.J. Manuel had a rocket for an arm, but couldn't put it into the spots that he needed to.
Right.
And he's 6'5". E.J. Manuel is 6'5". You have guys that have come on this team that have had cannons like J.P. Losman, even Tyrod Taylor. But then like for some reason all these guys end up turtling.
Yep.
And they're just afraid to throw the ball.
And they've all been kind of high risk, high reward, like boomer bust guys, right?
Yes, all of them.
And I think a lot of people were like, all right, now we're in an opportunity where we can move up in the draft. We can draft a surefire pick, someone who we don't have to think of as a boomer bust. We know what their skill level is. We know what their talent level is. Now they can just play, and if they succeed, great. If they fail, well, okay. But at least we know, like, the base that we start at isn't so divisive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we still picked the boomer bust guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of people were like, well, we just wanted a surefire, we wanted a lock-in pick. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been amazing if we were in the Jets position and we just got Sam Darnold.
I know.
At 3. You know what I mean? And I don't think Brandon Beane expected that. I don't think he expected the Jets to move up higher than them or whatever to get to, it was 3, right?
Yeah,
it was 3. But it happened, and and now we're here.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So I think that's one of the reasons. So it's not only the fact that he was unpolished; it's the fact that he reminds us a lot of these quarterbacks that have failed, which isn't fair to him.
No, it's not,
because he's not any of these guys. He wasn't any of these guys. He wasn't J.P. Losman. Right. He wasn't Trent Edwards or whoever, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
And I don't think those tweets that came out right before the draft help either. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, we already had questions to begin with about the kid, and we're hearing big pundits being like, "Oh yeah, they're definitely drafting Josh Allen tonight," and we're like, we're going home frustrated as it is.
Yeah.
And then
You're like,
let's tweet stuff and like, are we drafting the right guy? And you know what I mean? And
you're like, so this guy had all these question marks about his playing ability, and he's also a racist and might have, or whatever.
Yep.
You know. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see. Did the tweets really bother you? Because to me, it's kind of like, well, he was a kid. I mean, you're 15, 14, 15, figuring out the internet. Like, he might say some stupid stuff.
Yeah, they don't really bother me personally. Like, if he were to tweet those a month ago, I would have a problem with it. But like you said, if he was 15 or 16, kids are stupid.
Yeah,
there's a lot of growth that happens between 16 and 20, 21.
Yeah,
Than between 21 and 27.
Yeah,
like
exactly. So much.
There's so much more growth. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on it.
Yeah. It's like literally like lifetimes almost between 16 and 21, and then like 21 and 27 and like 35. Yeah. Like I think of stuff that I posted on MySpace when I was a kid. It was like, that was so dumb.
Yeah.
I would never ever say that now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like embarrassing to even think
like
about.
Vague booking or whatever they call it, where you just tweet something really cryptic and you're like, what's that about? Yeah.
You ever look at like your yearbook quote back in the day?
I hate my yearbook quote.
What did you write? What'd you
write? It's a quote from Incubus. It's whenever tomorrow comes, I'll be there, from that one Incubus song. I hate it. It's like nails on chalkboard. I'm like,
no, it means
that quote sucks. What was I doing?
Was there a hidden meaning behind that, or you're just like, I'm just?
No, I think I was trying to be cool because I think if I remember correctly, I was like dating a girl in high school, and she's like, "Hey, we're both going to college. Let's break up." And I'm like, no, I don't want to break up. But in retrospect, that's like the smartest move. Like, she was like I give her a lot of credit. She was like the smartest move you could ever do. But now, so I'm like all like angsty, and I'm like, well, I gotta look cool now. So whatever tomorrow comes, I'll be there. That's whatever. You know what I mean?
Dude, I love that we talked about that, because mine was like totally towards an ex-girlfriend too. I totally wrote, what was it, a Bare Naked Ladies quote? It was like, dude, this girl, my first...
the Chinese chicken, right? That was it.
It was the first like serious girlfriend I had when I was like a junior or whatever, and she like dumped me for a kid that was like in college.
Yeah.
And she was younger than me, so she was a sophomore when I was a junior. So like it was really awkward, like, senior year, where like she was around, and it was just like I just some Bare Naked Ladies quote. Something about "I told you so" or something.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like, man, why didn't I say something about something other than just her? Like some cryptic message, like she even cared. Like, even if she read it, she'd be like, what a loser.
Yeah.
Who says that about me? Like, I'm totally over you. I'm dating this college guy. But that's funny. It's funny, man. See, we share more than just the Bills. We share our teenage angst.
That's right. Yes, lots of teenage angst.
Dude, what were we even talking? Okay, oh yeah, Josh Allen. So like you, I think I'm definitely willing. I mean, you have to. At this point, you have to be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I want him to go out there and prove everyone wrong. Like, I don't see why you would want to root not for that. You know what I mean? And I remember seeing or hearing about it was either an interview on some sports talk show about Josh Allen, or it was an article I read. I can't remember, but they were comparing, the types of plays he was running, kind of who was surrounding him on the team, and some people were making the argument, like guys like Baker Mayfield, he had better insulation, he had better receivers, he had better guys on the team that they might have made him look better than maybe, he's still probably really good, he's probably going to be amazing, but he might have looked even better because he had better players around him. And Josh Allen, being at Wyoming, I don't think their program is as strong as like the other programs. So, they were making the argument that the offense they were running was maybe a pro style offense. Josh Allen was doing was making throws that were harder to do.
Yeah.
And that might have dropped his completion percentage, which I'm willing to accept as maybe a truth.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
know. I haven't done the research, so I can't.
Exactly.
But that's what I heard, and I'm like, okay, I could kind of see that. So there might be some hope there.
The Bills haven't drafted a guy like with this high, a guy that was actually like ranked this high. The last time the Bills drafted a guy in the first round, it was EJ Manuel, and he was given a third round grade by a lot of different pundits out there.
Yeah.
Now you have Josh Allen, someone that people say is a number one overall pick,
Yeah.
and some people are saying like a middle of first round or second round.
I don't
right?
know if he's a number one overall
Well,
pick.
I mean, you had Mel Kiper saying that he was the best quarterback in the draft and stuff like that. So at least people were saying that. People do believe that one way or
Yeah.
another. At
Yeah.
least we have that.
Yeah.
Because when EJ Manuel was drafted, it was very head scratching.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being at the time being like, they can have their pick of, they traded back, they can still get the quarterback they want, they get an extra second round pick, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they picked EJ Manuel. I'd be like, this guy wasn't supposed to go in the first 2 rounds. Like, why are they picking him? But regardless, I mean, I'm really interested to see, and I try to look at it from, like I was saying, why didn't I like Josh Allen before, and what have I heard about him that's been really bad? And it's like, well, I could say something negative about all the quarterbacks taken.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like at least Josh Allen scored the highest on the Wonderlic test.
Okay.
Which isn't a direct indication of how smart you are.
Right.
But it's better to have a good score than a bad score.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, would you
Yeah.
rather have that or Lamar Jackson's 13?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Lamar Jackson can do amazing things, but what if he's really not intelligent?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he can't pick up an NFL offense.
That's true. I mean, I saw a lot of Browns fans on Twitter saying like Baker Mayfield's like the second coming of Johnny Manziel.
Exactly.
And I go, you just drafted Baker Mayfield number 1. Like, I'd be ecstatic.
I know, exactly, and I don't think that's fair either. So,
Exactly.
so we were talking about earlier about not being fair comparing Josh Allen to other quarterbacks the Bills have had.
Yeah.
I don't think Baker Mayfield is Johnny Manziel. You can't say that.
I don't think so either.
Just
No,
like
I
I
don't.
hated the comparison of say quarterbacks from California can't make it.
Okay,
It's like,
yeah.
well, just because they haven't doesn't mean that they can't.
Right.
A lot of them,
Right.
from USC or
For
whatever.
sure.
And that's just not a fair comparison.
Now, the rumor has it that the Cardinals were going to take Josh Allen. How do you feel about that?
It makes me happier. It makes me
Yeah.
think that a lot of other teams thought better. Again, I always ask, why didn't I like Josh Allen more? It's because I listen to WGR all the time. Literally,
Yes.
because I don't watch college football enough.
Yeah,
And, we had Zach Sheets on the podcast in our pre-draft edition, and he was talking about the fact that he really liked, he's very frustrating, but he makes amazing throws too.
Okay.
Josh Allen, that is.
Yeah.
And, all the people were saying, the talent around him. It's like, well, how about the Senior Bowl? How come that doesn't count? The Senior Bowl has the best seniors in the country.
Right.
And when he had that, his completion percentage was almost 70%, and he threw for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he looked great in that game.
Yeah.
And also, that doesn't include the rushing stats, which he was very good at running the ball. And I guess what I look at and what I come away with is that the Bills can build a franchise like the Steelers built up with Big Ben.
Okay.
When Big Ben was a rookie, they won a Super Bowl. And they run it based on more of a running game and a pass as you need to. And then eventually he developed into an amazing passer and a guy that was big and could stand in the pocket. And,
Okay.
they built a team around him.
Okay.
And I see that with the Buffalo Bills doing that. I mean, they have a good they can have a good run game. They don't have amazing weapons, but they have okay weapons enough to get through.
Yeah.
And if they have a great defense, which they invested a lot into the defenses offseason, whether it was draft picks or free agency,
Right.
then this could be a better defense. So you're talking about a possibly better running game with a better offensive coordinator, a better defense, and a quarterback like Josh Allen. And we haven't even gotten into this, A.J. McCarron, which I'm not willing to write off A.J. McCarron at all.
Neither am I. I mean, a lot of people out there are saying, his ceiling isn't very high. I don't know. I kind of would.
How do we know?
We don't know. He's been sitting behind Andy Dalton.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of people's argument. Well, he's sitting behind Andy Dalton, so he must not be that good because a lot of people don't like Andy Dalton.
Except A.J. McCarron almost won a playoff game, whereas Andy Dalton's never won a playoff game. Like, if not for a freakish Jeremy Hill fumble,
Yeah.
A.J. McCarron would have the only Bengals winning playoff game in the last 20 years or whatever.
And I don't want to jinx this, but I'm hoping that A.J. McCarron comes out and is amazing and lights it up.
Yes.
And then we have Josh Allen behind him, and he ends up being amazing. And then that's a good problem to have. I would love to be in that situation.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's going to happen. If I can get one or the other, if I can get A.J. McCarron's garbage and Josh Allen's proves everyone wrong, great.
Yeah.
If I can get Josh Allen's garbage and A.J. McCarron proves to be amazing, I'm also super happy. I just want one of those to happen. You know what
Exactly.
I mean?
We just want one.
Yeah, we just want one.
And then Nathan Peterman's like the wild card.
Yeah.
He's like Charlie in Always Sunny. He's
you-
just the wild
Do you
card.
think they kind of ruined Nathan Peterman a little bit, by having him play in that game and he ended up getting 5 interceptions? Do you think it's going to take him a while to get back to a good confidence level where he can play well? He did okay in the snow game.
Yeah, he did.
Considering the weather.
The weather, yeah.
Now, granted, I just bitched about.
He did great in every. I mean, I wouldn't say great. He did well enough in every game he stepped in for, minus that Chargers game.
Yeah.
So it was good to see him actually succeed somewhat in that Colts game.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to write him off at all. I wasn't ready to write off
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor, and even though he was just, he was a shadow of himself towards the end.
Yeah.
No, I it can't hurt.
Yeah.
So you have Josh Allen, the big arm, elite talent, not sculpted into what he needs to be a franchise quarterback. And now you have AJ McCarron, who's honestly a little bit different than Josh Allen in the fact that he's more accurate. He came out of college being more accurate.
Okay.
He came out of college in a better understanding of offenses and pro-style concepts and making short to intermediate throws. And also, he sat 4 years behind Andy Dalton. So he understands an NFL offense. It won't be too quick for him. In his limited experience as a Bengals starter for that 5 games or so, he's proven to be pretty good, pretty decent.
Yep.
So I'm excited about AJ McCarron. I know a lot of Bills fans are probably rolling their eyes at that and saying he does. I think he has a chance.
Yeah.
And all you need to do, especially, so you have one end of the spectrum and the other end. And people always talk about, like you said, Andy Dalton. He couldn't get past Andy Dalton. It's like, well, Andy Dalton was probably going to be the starter. They were paying him $20 million a year.
Right.
So there weren't a whole lot of chances to get ahead of him.
Right.
And
they were kind of committed to him financially, so
they were committed to him financially.
They needed to play him first.
Exactly. And there are situations, and they wanted to keep him. Like the Bengals wanted to keep AJ McCarron.
Yeah.
Because when the injury settlement came, that actually granted him his free agency, but the Bengals didn't want to. They wanted him to become a free agent. They wanted to keep him. So that's a sign right there that obviously he's decent, or else they would just draft a guy in the 7th round and be like, "You can be the backup."
Yeah.
They saw something in this. The Cleveland Browns wanted to trade for him. Hugh Jackson wanted him. I mean, there's a lot of signs saying that this guy could have been something or could be something. So I'm really not ready to write him off at all. And it sounds like he's got a great work ethic.
Yeah.
And he's a leader. And he was at Alabama, one of the premier college football teams in the NFL for the last 10 years. So I'm not ready to write him off. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. But I love the fact that they have Josh Allen also.
Yep.
So it could be one or the other. Like you said, best case scenario, you have
They're
2 guys
amazing.
that are great. Yeah. Worst case scenario is everyone sucks.
That is, yeah.
Everyone sucks, but we've been through that.
Would you be surprised?
Here's to hoping.
Spoken like a true Bills fan.
So like a true Bills fan. Dude, you've only been a Bills fan for a few years. You can't talk like that.
I know.
But
I'm naturally pessimistic, so it's fine.
But what's nice is you've also seen the Bills come out of the drought within your fandom.
That was great. You know what? I don't think we've really talked about that whole playoff berth for the Bills. I remember you had the episode. I listened to it. It was a great episode. I think you really captured a lot of what we were feeling. I mean, that was a great couple hours there. Right before New Year's Eve.
Yep.
Right on New Year's Eve, right before the ball dropped. It was awesome.
I think that's one of the moments that like you kind of remember, where you were, what you were doing. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. It's very surreal. I remember waking up on New Year's Day and going like, "Shit, the Bills made the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is awesome."
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You didn't know what to feel at the moment because you're like,
yeah,
like this is real, right?
Yeah.
Like we can just enjoy this, and
Yeah.
you enjoyed it at the time, and we'll get into that a little bit more because we have more to talk about.
Sure,
that. But
yeah.
as far as the draft goes, I mean, was there a pick that was your favorite out of all of them?
I can't say that I know about a lot of the prospects that were picked, but after watching some highlights of that Tremaine Edmonds kid, I'm a big fan of like strong defenses. Like I like roaming safeties and all that kind of stuff, and so to get a guy like that, watching some of his highlights and him just like crushing people, I thought that's a good pick, and it seemed like it was a well received pick. He moved up. They moved up in the draft to get him. They traded some more capital away, which depends on who you ask. That's good or bad.
Yeah.
But no, I mean he's a young kid. He's a big kid, and
he's huge.
I'm hoping to see like great things out of him. So
yeah,
I really like that pick. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And he's young. He's
Yeah.
so young. And he could be literally the franchise middle linebacker for this. I mean,
For sure.
if he
Yeah.
continues on the path that he's going on, which there's no reason to think he won't. I mean, he's not a flash in the pan.
Yep.
His statistics are off the chart. He's young. He's mature. I mean, there's just so much to like about him. So, as far as being a Bills fan, what's one thing that you didn't like about last season that you would like to change or see different this season?
You know, I thought the run game took a little bit of a hit last season. I remember, a couple seasons ago, I think LaShawn McCoy had a really good year.
Yeah.
I like to see them get back to that a little bit. Just have a more balanced offense. Not to say that their passing game was great, but if we can get a more balanced offense and then maybe get someone behind. I know we got Chris Ivory, or I know the Bills drafted Chris Ivory. I gotta stop saying we. I have a bad habit of doing that.
They signed Chris Ivory. That's all right.
They signed Chris Ivory.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them get a suitable backup.
Yes.
For their star running back.
Yes.
Someone who's actually serviceable. Someone who can actually do something.
I think they're going to find an undrafted guy somehow, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice. Going back to the draft, I think we've been waiting for this for a few years, is a drafted running back to take over for LaShawn McCoy when he's done. Because we know the end is coming. I mean, it's inevitable.
Yes.
He is turning 30 this year, and we know that there's a huge drop-off with all running backs. I mean, luckily, LaShawn McCoy is the kind of running back that doesn't take a lot of hits because he usually finds a way to get out of bounds or whatever.
Right.
He's very smart about that.
Right.
But you still need to groom someone behind him because you know that the end is eventually coming.
Yes.
And even though he's elite, he won't be elite forever.
Yep. I'd also like to see them, for something to improve on next year, I'd like to see them utilize a tight end a little bit more in the offense. You watch teams like, I watched a lot of Minnesota last year with Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thielen, right?
Thielen is yep. And they're like go-to guys, you know what I mean? And then even from a couple years ago, like Jimmy Graham, like for the Seahawks, like how Russell Wilson utilizes Jimmy Graham, you know what I mean? Or utilized Jimmy Graham.
The Bills,
I kind of want that for the Bills. I want that guy. I want that player.
The Bills have completely underutilized Charles Clay the last 3 years that they've had him.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't until last year that Tyrod Taylor finally started looking at him. His way just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think with this offense, if Josh Allen ends up being the quarterback, I think the offense should be built around like seam passes like that.
Okay.
Like vertical offense, like things that he would be good at, which is what Brady does. I mean, Brady will, throw slants to Edelman and, Amendola all day.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'll throw over the top to Gronk down the seam, and it's just the Bills need to somehow take advantage of that.
For sure. For sure.
Okay. So we talk about the Bills. Speaking of the Bills, previous to you coming on board, so you're actually also the graphic designer of the podcast, just by accident, honestly. But
recreational graphic designer.
Recreational, yeah. This isn't your profession, but you're very good at it. So you took. I asked you to come up with something for our logo. So previous to myself talking to you, we had a very simplistic logo. It was just it's circling the wagons. It was a Bills logo, and a wagon and a gray background, and we're like, hey, this is basically like Microsoft Paint, and it was the best that we could do because we aren't artists. Yeah. But we're like, let's just, now that the podcast has gotten a lot bigger, we've gotten a lot more listeners and downloads and subscribers. I'm like, hey, the sound's gotten better, the technology's gotten better, the product has gotten better. Hopefully, us talking about teenage angst in yearbooks.
Yeah.
But I mean, we needed an updated logo, and what you did with this is, I gotta say, just impressive because. I mean, you took something that was very simplistic and you kind of made it like badass. So
thanks.
So you took basically almost like the Bills logo.
Yep.
And you made it into like an angry buffalo. Exactly.
Yeah.
So real quick, I'm going to tell the listeners, if you want to check it out, go to tpublic, teepublic.com/stores/CTW pod. And that's CTW pod, like our Twitter handle. But you guys got to check it out. It's a really cool concept in general. Like even if it wasn't even associated with the podcast, I mean, I showed my wife. I'm like, look at this is what Nick came up with, and she's like, that's the one. That is the one that you got to go with. It is so cool. So
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, glad you like it. Yeah.
I mean, how did you come up with that? Because it's one thing to have like just the Buffalo Bills logo, which it's a 2D.
Yeah.
The side Buffalo charging. I mean, you just took it and you made it like 3D.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wanted to, when you asked me to do it and work on it, I think you already had a good base logo, like Circling Wagons podcast. There's inherent imagery to that, right? So I just wanted to expand on what you already have because I think you built a good fan base. They know your logo, and I think we just need. I think you just needed to make it more. Just take it to the next step, take it to the next level. So that's what I did. So I just wanted to make it more of a 3D, more of a thing. So I wanted, the charging buffalo is definitely a staple in sports for Buffalo sports. So I wanted to do something with that and then add in your kind of moniker or whatever you want to call it with the wagon.
You added a wagon to it. It was a much better wagon than what we.
So it's kind of like a ground level, charging buffalo. Pulling a wagon kind of thing.
Kind of like the Oregon Trail wagon. I liked it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Circling the wagons. Yeah, man. Yeah. I love it. So you did that, which looks amazing. And by the way, at the T Public store, you can find it in like shirts or a coffee mug or whatever. But like, it's like, whatever, that's our fan logo. Like, we'll throw that up there. But what you really created, which I think Bills fans are really going to like, we collaborated on this, was the end of the drought graph. Now, when the Bills finally, we just talked about it, the end of the drought.
Yeah.
They made it into the AFC wild card. There was this graph that showed all four teams. It showed the Ravens, the Titans, the Chargers, and the Bills, and their chances of making the playoffs from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock.
It's a crazy graph.
Crazy,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And of course, it starts off with the Bills being, like lower half of, and then all of a sudden, like having no chance basically until that 51-yard bomb from Andy Dalton to Tyler Boyd.
Yep.
And then the Ravens lost and the Bills got in. And so it's such a great graph. It's iconic. So why don't you talk about what you did? So you took that graph, but you enhanced it.
Yeah. So, that graph is very Bill specific. I don't think any other team cares about that graph except for Bills fans.
No, it's iconic.
It is iconic. So, you got to make, I had to make it stand out. So, I made the Bills line on the graph just real big, so you know which one's the Bill is particular.
Bold.
Yeah, very bold. And then I just took the other teams and I just made them very faint. So I kind of brought the Bills line to the foreground a little bit, and then other than that, it was just like simple improvements on what the graph, because a lot of those statistical programs that kind of graph and chart that kind of stuff, this is very basic. It's like doing it in Excel, nothing special.
Yeah.
So it was pretty simple just to put some pretty stuff on there, make it look good, and then wear it as a shirt. Yeah, that'd be sweet. It looks.
I mean, it's something that I printed out and I framed, and it's something that people, if you want, check it out. Like, you can frame it on the website, but I mean, it's something that, you'll never forget. And then on the top, unlike the original graph, you wrote the end of the drought.
Yeah.
12/31/17, because that's the date you'll always remember.
Yes.
The point. So like your kids will look at it, or you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that was the year.
Yeah.
They ended the drought. What's the drought? You'll be like, listen, it was this terrible, terrible time.
Yeah.
As a Bills fan, and we ended it, and we're on to a new start, a new beginning.
Yep.
So I love the fact that you did it. You did a great job with it. I'm gonna post it on T Public after this podcast, and also so anything we post after this podcast is actually like it's like 30% off as soon as you post it. And T Public is actually doing a sale May 16th to May 20th. They're doing a site-wide sale. So if you want to check out any of the stuff there on our podcast or anything else on this site, it's a pretty sweet site actually. Check it out there. And then the May 26th to May 28th, there's a Memorial Day flash sale. And then so we have our logo, which is pretty badass. We have the end of the drought graph, which is pretty sick. I really want to get that in a coffee mug. And then also we have this Hall of Famers banner. Yeah. So this was something that I went to the Andre Reed induction ceremony in Canton. Mm-hmm. So Andre Reed in 2014 was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He had been log jammed to try to get in for like 7 years. It was ridiculous. He was the last player from the Super Bowl era, for the Bills Super Bowl era, to get into the Hall of Fame. And I remember with buddies of mine and buddies of buddies, and it was like, we got to do this because we don't know. We got to go there. We got to enjoy this because we don't know when it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I literally don't know when it's going to happen again. And it's sad to think that.
I mean, hopefully it's either McCarron or
Allen.
Or
Allen.
It's probably not going to be McCoy because he didn't play long enough.
He was mostly, he's going to be an Eagle. It's going to be a while. I guess that's the point, is it's not going to be anytime soon.
Right.
So when I was there, I found this, the NFL was selling this Bills banner. They were selling them for all the teams that had players that made it into the Hall of Fame. So that weekend, Michael Strahan had got in, so they had all the Giants players in a banner.
Right.
All their numbers and the years they got into the Hall of Fame. Well, I bought one for like $60. Jeez. And I still have it. It's a ridiculous amount of money for just like names and numbers, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's all it is.
Yep.
And it's in felt and whatever. But what I asked you to do was basically create that banner, that Hall of Fame Bills banner, except better. And you did a much better job. Like you talk about that because
no offense whoever designed that banner, by the way.
Some kid in India.
Not the best.
Not the best. Some sweatshop. Yeah. It was like, you could tell, like they basically like they had it set like 2 names ago and then they just like threw in some names.
Yeah. It looked like they patched names on after the fact. So they had, a handful of names on there and they go, oh, somebody else got inducted. Okay. Well, let's just sew this on real quick after the fact. Different color stitching. You could tell it didn't match, but that's okay.
Yeah. Fine. Of course. Yeah. I mean, they're just, and they made a ton of money off of it. So why not?
Yeah.
So not only do I want, like, as Bills fans or podcast listeners to provide you with something, that's interesting, but something that you would like, that I would like, that I've obviously bought, and which I'm going to get in a different version. It's a much better version. So I thought this was interesting. Hopefully you guys like it. Check it out again. Like I said, tpublic.com/stores/CTWpod. We're working on other images and other cool Bills swag and artwork that I think you guys are really going to like, just because, I mean, we like it and we're Bills fans, and it's a totally, we have a vested interest, but I mean, it's just kind of cool. Like, I'd be proud to wear this around or to have it on a mug or to show people. And I've seen it, different versions of like the drought graph go along Twitter, and it's been super popular. So here's a version. It's honestly the best version out there of the drought graph, and you can get it in different. You can get it in a cell phone case. You can get it in a Bills onesie, like for a baby. It's pretty sweet. There's a lot of stuff. You can get it in like wall art and canvas print, or even in like tapestry, like flags. Like a whole like 3 foot by 5 foot flag of the end of the drought. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. We are going to do a portion of the proceeds each month of these sales to go to charity. I think we're going to do Hunter's Hope, at least right now, since it's an obvious one. It's a Bills-related charity. It's Jim Kelly. It's a great cause. It's for children. It's for diagnosing illnesses early so that they can live happier and fuller lives. Is named after Jim Kelly's son Hunter, and who unfortunately passed away. But and Jim Kelly's going through his battle, which we're obviously hoping, hoping he comes out on top just like he did last time.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to start off with the proceeds from each of these sales, which we don't get a lot. Trust me, it's not like it's a lot but it's more for you guys as fans to be able to get this stuff. And but a portion of everything that we will make will go to a charity for the Bills Foundation every month, and that's our promise to you guys. But if you have any suggestions for like cool ideas to put on this podcast, I mean, as much is it a podcast of us, and we love talking about the Bills. We're also fans, and we're also part of the fan community. I mean, we're not media personalities, so we're just like you guys. If you guys have a suggestion, please email it to us or tweet it at us. And we will take it into account, and maybe we can make it. I mean, the things that you've done, Nick, I know your profession isn't graphic design, but I mean, you wouldn't know it by the quality of work you do. Like, seriously, like, it's impressive. And I've had people like try to work on a logo that are like, Photoshop pros, and they couldn't do half the things that you've done. So anyway, enough.
Yeah, stop pumping my tires.
I know,
Jesus.
I'm done pumping your tires and doing whatever else is. So let's talk Sabres now, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not as big of a Sabres fan. Honestly, I went to UB, so I didn't become even remotely a Sabres fan until I went to college, and I met a lot of Sabres fans, and I became friends with a lot of them. And so I followed them like on and off, just kind of. And then also the thing is, I'm a cheap bastard. I don't have cable, so I can't watch.
You're
the
not missing
Sabres
out on anything. Don't worry about it.
It kind of makes me feel better. Like I haven't the last 4 seasons or
Yeah.
so. I haven't missed a whole hell of a lot. But recently the Sabres won the lottery.
Yes.
This is the first time they finished last in the NHL, and they've won the lottery in the last because they've finished last 3 of the last 4 seasons, right?
I think something like that. Yeah.
But they've only won the lottery once, so this is
right.
It's kind of a big deal.
Well, they've won it back in the 70s.
Okay.
So this is the first time in a very long time. I think since the modern, we'll call it the modern tank era, the MTE.
Yep.
Since the MTE, they haven't won the lottery. So this is huge. They're gonna get seemingly Rasmus Dahlin, who is this big time Swedish defenseman who, Ray Ferraro from TSN has said he defends like Lindstrom and skates like Carlson. That's huge if you're a hockey fan. That's going to make you
I know
shiver.
both of those names, so that sounds good.
I think Craig Button, take it as you will. He said he will do for you on defense what Connor McDavid does for you on offense.
Oh hell yeah!
You can't help but just get super excited, and this seems like this is coming at the perfect time because, the Sabres drafted Eichel, they got Brendan Gooley, they got Middlestat, they're kind of forming this new core. It sounds like maybe one of two, O'Reilly or Reinhart, will most likely get traded at some point. We'll see what happens. But they're developing this new younger core, and I think they're building it around Eichel. Now they got Dahlin, who can be an anchor point on the back end for defense for them.
Which defense was a need, right? Correct me
yes,
if
and that's
I'm
where
wrong.
Kyle was going with it. They needed defense help badly, and I know GM Jason Botterill, or Bottrill, however you say it. He tried to revamp some of the defensive core last season, and he signed some guys that we kind of went into the season thinking they could make it a significant improvement, and they didn't, and that's okay. Sometimes you miss on those guys, and that's fine. But now with Dahlin coming in, we haven't drafted anybody yet, but it's pretty much a given.
I was going to ask you: is there any way that they would ever draft anyone else but Dahlin? He's a consensus number one, right?
Yes, for sure. In this draft specifically, yes, he is.
Okay.
It's not like the McDavid year, where it was like McDavid and Eichel, and or even the Sam year. It's like they can go in 1, 2, 3. You can mix and match whatever the team thinks. This guy is definitely the consensus number one overall pick, and then there's everyone else. Good. Yeah, and to get a surefire guy like this is huge, and I'm super excited.
I mean, what they've said about him is they've compared him to like guys that are Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers that are currently in this league.
Yep.
And from what I've heard, the little I've heard is that he's better than them already. Like
at his age, he's better than they were at that age. Yeah.
Like he's not only good, like he's coachable too. Like he's very smart and he works hard and everything like that too. Right.
Yeah. I guess they had his coach on. He plays. He currently plays on Frölunda in the Swedish Elite League, and the Swedish Hockey League, excuse me. And his coach said that like he has to tell him to stop. Like his work ethic is so great. Like he'll keep working, and you have to force him to stop. Working out or skating or working on stuff.
Nice.
He's got this this mentality, this incredible work ethic that is serving him well so far. And I think even when he played a limited time over here in North America on the smaller ice surface, his ability to adapt to the smaller ice surface was amazing. So I don't think we'll have any problem with him stepping in and having moderate success, at least to start with the Sabres.
With a guy like that in defense, does it also boost the play of your offense to have a guy that good?
For sure, yes. I think people underestimate how much of a tool that is. I mean, if you have a guy who can quarterback, kind of be a quarterback back there and just dictate the flow of play. You know what I mean? The pace at it, give good crisp passes out of the gate to your forwards. It's going to help your forwards be more successful. And then he's going to be able to give the forward support. So once you enter the offensive zone, he comes up. Now they can dish it back to him, and he can create plays from back there. And I don't think they've really had a guy to do that. We thought Ristolainen might be that guy for a while, He might be a number 2 guy, a number 3 guy, I think, long term.
Which you need. I mean,
Yeah, and that's not any slight to him. Like, he could end up being amazing. You know what I mean? I think for the average defenseman or the above average defenseman, he's going to need more time to develop. It's a Tyler Myers situation.
Gotcha.
He's not he's not. I don't know. It depends on who you ask. I'm not at the point with Ristolainen where I was with Tyler Myers before we traded him.
Yeah.
But now look at Tyler Myers. The Winnipeg Jets are in the conference finals. He's playing amazing.
Okay.
He
just needed 10 years. That's all.
Yeah, and sometimes that happens with defensemen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Dahlin's probably not going to be that guy. He might come in and be pretty good and be one of the better defensemen. He's definitely going to be one of the better defensemen.
Is he big enough right now, or does he need to grow into his body?
He probably needs to grow
because he's young.
Bit.
He's only like 18, 19, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's like 6'4", 200 right now.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So he'll probably get to maybe 220. By the time he's fully developed.
Okay.
He's probably, yeah. I mean,
I just mean like size wise, is he big enough to handle the ice right now, or does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
He could literally. He doesn't have to go through the AHL or the juniors or anything.
No,
like that. He goes right.
He will play for the Sabres day one for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And rumor has it, from what I've heard, is that they've already got Dahlin on the board in the locker room. It's like they're already factoring him in for like lineups for next year.
Nice.
Yeah, which is awesome. If he was born in Canada, he would be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Since Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Since Connor McDavid. Yeah, the greatest thing since Connor McDavid, for sure.
Yeah.
Like they would adore this kid, but he's Swedish, so he's not getting as much of the coverage. But I think the hype is real, and I can't wait for the start of hockey season.
So how often does it work that the biggest need that the Sabres have also works into the fact that they won the lottery and they get the best player, right?
It never works that way.
Because they've needed defense for like a while.
Yes.
This isn't new.
Yes. And there was a couple...
Like even before the tank, like, right? Like even before, like when Ryan Miller was around, like their defense was pretty poor.
Yeah, it was... Yeah. I think they missed... What happened with the Sabres was they missed a lot of their draft picks. And what I mean by miss is they picked the wrong guy. Yeah, he didn't work out. Yeah. And when they don't work out, you start to develop gaps. And
wait, that doesn't help you with a franchise? It doesn't. That doesn't lead you to the Stanley Cup to miss on every single draft pick. That doesn't get you a Super Bowl to miss on quarterbacks or whatever.
Yeah, and not to say those guys were terrible. They just didn't develop into the players that they originally drafted them for. You know what I mean? You look at a guy like Cody Hodgson, who was like a 10th overall pick or something like that. They traded for him from Nashville. Didn't end up, or Vancouver, excuse me. Uh-huh. And didn't end up being much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, man. I mean, it's always cool when you hear pundits on TV and they're just like kind of laughing because they don't know what to say because he's like so good. They're like he's beyond words.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god.
I know. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think most Sabres fans right now are kind of in that zone where we're like quietly like, okay. Mm-hmm. And then if we'll get him, and then the moment he scores his first goal, and it could be the first game, it could be the second game, or whatever, we're gonna lose it. Like it's finally gonna be real. And I think we've like the Bills, we've gone through like so much like suffering. To quote Darcy Regier, is that like we're just waiting. We're kind of waiting for that. All right, let's go. Let's get to the playoffs and let's crush this thing. You know what I mean?
So when Eichel came on a couple of years ago, you talked about, or it was kind of the thought that he would elevate the play. It was like him, the Ryan O'Reilly signing, the Evander Kane trade, that like, okay, we're only a couple of seasons away, and we're a couple of seasons later, and we're still not any closer to a playoff.
Yeah.
With a guy like Dahlin, with Casey Middlestat coming up, with other players and other, like you were saying, actual draft picks that work out as opposed to flame out. Do you think the Sabres can be a contender next season, or do you think it's going to take a few seasons?
No, to be conservative, it'd probably be, a year or two from now, where I would say they would make the playoffs, but you never know. Mm-hmm. They might come out. I've seen it
sign or trade or
depends who they get. It depends if the guys work out. Like Colorado missed the playoffs and finished like close to the bottom, and then the next year after they made the playoffs. So it's not unheard of for that to happen.
The Bills traded away all their good players and they made the playoffs. So
exactly. So I don't know. I'm very much in wait and see mode, but I'm excited. You know what I mean? Towards the end of last year, like I barely watched any of the games this year just because I was so frustrated with how the team was playing, how they looked, and I still watched for Eichel. I watched when Middlestat came up, when they signed him and he actually played.
How do you look?
I thought he looked. I mean, you can tell he's young. He's a little green still, but he's good. He had 5 points in 6 games, and I can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah,
so
seriously. And he's young too, right?
yeah. I think he's
18,
like
19?
19.
Jeez.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, you look at him; he looks like a baby. Yeah, he's got the baby face.
Oh, I saw pictures
Yeah.
of him on Twitter.
Yeah, so he's young. He'll
Like
grow.
my 9-year-old nephew.
Yeah, I mean, but he did really good in the World Junior Championships. Bob McKenzie said this is Casey Middlestat's show. We're just living in it, or we're just watching it, or something like
Nice.
that. So he's going to be a good player. I think he was kind of a steal. He fell down the draft board big time, and we were fortunate to get him at 8. The Sabres were fortunate to get him at 8.
Yeah.
I keep doing that.
No, that's all we. It's one Buffalo.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, man. So, like, I got high hopes. I'm trying to keep it kind of shoved down here a little bit. I don't want expectations to be too high, but
Absolutely.
I'm really excited. Yeah, this is gonna be awesome.
Good, man. It's an exciting time to finally, hopefully, that this is the end of that, kind of
I hope so.
like what the Bills just went through, you
Yeah.
know, that drought sort of feeling.
Yeah.
So it seems like things are looking up for the Sabres. So, man, I'm still going to need you to keep me up to date on how the
Oh, I
Sabres
will.
are doing. And
Yeah,
like, what,
I mean, when the Sabres are in the playoffs, like, it's a whole nother level. Like, it's like, I can't even describe it. Just like the energy level, just how invested I am in hockey, like irrationally so. Like, oh, who they playing?
Yeah.
All right, well, we got to do this tonight. Like, all right, just running scenarios and like,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the last time I got like that, I was a little bit younger. I was like maybe, when was it? It was like 5 or 6, 7 years ago, something like that. Yeah. And I remember being so upset. It was like Easter Sunday. They lost to the Flyers in the playoffs.
Yep.
And I just remember being pissed. I remember there's countless times of me going to bed angry, like during college. Like, you got tests tomorrow. No, I'm going to go to bed fuming.
I'm gonna go
great for
fuming.
the stress levels. But I would want to be right back there any day. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Just to
absolutely.
watch playoff hockey again. Like, playoff hockey is the best. Like, as much as I love football, playoff hockey, best playoff in sports, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just they elevate the play, the pace of the pace, the speed, just the intensity level, like everything. It's incredible. In the atmosphere, you're playing the same team. It's best of 7. You know what I mean? You get like too familiar with the enemy team. You're like, this guy now. You know what I mean? That's how rivalries start to develop. It's phenomenal. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for the Sabres to get back into it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I hope that's I hope that's sooner rather than later. And
Yeah.
from what you're saying with Rasmus Dahlin and building upon what Eichel and Middlestat
Yeah.
and hopefully O'Reilly if they don't trade him and
Yeah.
just getting a core group of these guys and just building off that. I feel like that's what all these Stanley Cup winning teams do is they draft well
Yep.
and they build off of that.
Yep.
I know.
Yep. For sure.
You know?
Sure.
So
When you look at Chicago, you look at Pittsburgh. Edmonton's kind of been one of those things like the Sabres. Like they even though the Edmonton's won the lottery more than I think any other team.
yeah. They're millionaires. They're billionaires by now.
I know.
Ring
Yeah.
actual lottery.
Yeah, but like you look at any successful team. I mean, they kind of had to go through this kind of phase where they had to be bad for a little bit. They had to go down, get the best guy in the draft. Chicago with Patrick Kane, Pittsburgh with Sidney Crosby.
Yep.
What's crazy though in the lottery, we were like this close to having Chicago pick number 1 overall in this year's lottery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple screenshots like how they do the lottery balls.
Yeah.
It's like Yolanda Vega comes out and she does the New York Lotto or whatever.
Yeah.
And the ball for Chicago was like this close to getting sucked up the tube, and then all of a sudden it's like another ball comes out of here and like hits that and it goes flying, and then the Sabres ball goes flying up the tube, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden the Sabres win. So we were like millimeters
So you
off.
saw
from getting-
screenshots of that? Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
Which
awesome.
I couldn't imagine the reaction across the league if Chicago got Dahlin or whatever, and just he was amazing for them. And
So like in a vacuum, like
Yeah.
wouldn't it make more sense as a Buffalo sports fan to see the opposite of what just happen? So like the Sabres were about to get Rasmus Dahlin or get the first overall pick, and then they get bumped out
Like
by a
if you
team.
could like just take a peek
just-
into
yeah.
what that timeline would be
Yeah,
like.
exactly.
Oh,
like
man, I
like
don't know.
would you be surprised if we were talking, you and I right now, and talking
Yeah.
about how the Sabres got screwed?
Oh,
They almost
yeah.
had they almost had the lottery pick, and then the Blackhawks came in. The Blackhawks who have won like 2 Stanley Cups in the last 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
It would be the Pittsburgh lottery all over again, I think, or the Sidney Crosby lottery, because I think the Sabres were really close
Oh, were
to
they?
getting Crosby and
Don't say that.
the Penguins. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, or the Sabres had the most amount of like Pittsburgh's chances of getting Crosby were like astronomical at the time, and the Sabres had a much greater chance, and they didn't, and Pittsburgh did. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
I like the timeline that we're in right now.
Yeah, I know. We're
But-
good, but I mean, I
Yeah,
could
yeah,
just
yeah.
I like to look things outside the box and
Yeah,
what-
yeah.
and so we talked about the Bills. We talked about the new Bills artwork that we've been working on. We talked about the Sabres winning the lottery.
Sure.
Rasmus Dahlin, hopefully, and also, so you're also the host of the Torrent podcast, which is a podcast
I
I'm a
am.
fan of.
Oh, thanks.
I listen to it every time. I am a subscriber. It's fun. What's cool about it is so your podcast is about like music, video games, and what am I? Oh, movies.
Movies, yes.
Movies. So like I'm a little bit older.
Yeah.
So like I don't get out as much. So I don't have good outlets to find out about what the newest stuff is or what
Sure.
things are, and that's why I turned to your podcast. So if you could like just kind of give me a brief description of what your podcast is really about.
Yeah, so it's two friends of mine, Alan and Matt. We've known each other a whole hell of a long time, and we decided to get together and kind of talk about like I'm a big movie fan, and they're big video game fans, and we are all collectively huge music fans. And I'm like, I was getting into like listening to podcasts at work and stuff, and I'm like, this sounds really fun. Especially a lot of the comedians' podcasts. It just sounds like they get their buddies together in a room and they just talk about whatever, and it's hilarious and it's enjoyable. And I wanted that same kind of feel. And I really like movies, so I want to talk about movies too. So I asked them to do it with me. And then, we're kind of like a jack of all trades podcast. We talk about all the latest news in like entertainment, like you said, movies, music, TV, video games, just everything. And then we'll pick a topic and we'll have some good discussions about a certain aspect of that form of entertainment. So I think we get a good mix. I think I have a really good time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I like about your podcast is you do this segment called the Weekly Download.
Yes.
So you kind of give everybody a chance to give a song or two that they want to listen to.
Yes.
Which is cool because it's also like songs that we either grew up with, or it's like, so you'll have like a Slipknot, so like you'll do like a song we grew up with, like I was saying, like Third Eye Blind, right?
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you'll be
yeah.
like, here's Slipknot, and then
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
do, and then like one of your other buddies will be like, oh, here's Vanessa Carlton or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you'll just
yeah.
like you'll go all over the spectrum, which I appreciate because there's a lot of people that listen to everything.
Yeah.
Or they hear or they like different things, and like what I'll do is I'll pull it up on iTunes or whatever, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this song, or this is a pretty sweet song. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of keeps you, and they're all songs that you guys handpick that you enjoy.
Yes. A lot of times when people listen to music, they get caught up in their own little bubble of music, and they get stuck in like the same genre. And I know, at least for me, I get burnt out on a lot of stuff because I listen to the same stuff over and over again. So I've always wanted to have a resource where I could be like, I need something fresh. I need something cool. You
don't want to listen to
filter out.
90s alternative for the rest of your life every single day.
I love 90s alternative. No, I don't.
this guy. That's me.
Yeah. And I just
Lithium.
I needed a way to I needed a way for to find out more songs, to discover more stuff. I love discovering
Yep.
new music. And Matt and Alan got their little bubble of music that they listen to. So I think they recommend songs to me, I recommend songs to them. We kind of put it in a list, and then we throw it on the podcast, and hopefully we're helping other people discover that there's more to, especially in today's musical climate, there's more than this like Rihanna and Migos, and like there's other good stuff out there. You just
Who?
have to
No,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dude, well, that's why one of the things I appreciate about that is having a podcast that you can find. I mean, guys do a lot of stuff, but finding new music, because as someone that's got, and I'm only in my 30s, mind you, so I'm
Yeah.
not even, but I feel older. Like I remember growing up, when my parents were my age. And they didn't listen to any music. Like, it was like whatever they listened to in the 60s or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I listened to growing up and, you know, other stuff that was on local radio stations.
Yeah.
But
Like Fats Domino.
a lot of Fats Domino, like too much Fats Domino. Fats Domino 24/7, right?
Were you surprised that on that reference? Not many people know Fats
dude, that was a
Domino.
deep cut,
That
man.
was a deep cut, man. Yeah.
So, like, you know, I heard a lot of that stuff, and I remember thinking at the time, like, why aren't you guys listening to new music?
Yeah.
You know, and I remember thinking that was a sign that you are getting old.
Yes.
You know, as weird as that sounds,
Yeah.
like you work at the same job,
Yep.
you see the same people, you have the same friends, you do the same things, you live at the same place,
Yep.
you go to the same place for dinner, and like you listen to only the same music you grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to get out of that bubble, and I realize that getting older, like I need to listen to different things, and I need to expand myself because
Yeah.
if I don't keep expanding myself, I'm going to stay in the same.
The hard part is with technology, and we have an episode that covers this, but where there's so much technology out there and there's so much music production going on, there's a ton of stuff out there, and not all of it is good. You know what I mean? Or it's very like niche, like it's only like this small group of people who like think this is amazing, and everyone else is like, what are you even listening to? And it's hard to filter out all that stuff and find stuff that you really like and enjoy. And I think, you know, I hope to continue doing what we do on the podcast and try to find new stuff that we can recommend to other people. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and also I mean going along with that too, and not listening to as much new music is I don't see as many newer movies.
Yeah.
So like, for you, it's good. For me, because I don't necessarily see as many new movies, but I'm going to. I will see them when they come on Netflix, or
Yeah.
I will see them, you know, on Blu-ray or whatever. I will download them.
Yeah.
But I don't see them as much when they first come out. I don't necessarily know about them. But like for people that love to see movies, like you guys are a great outlet for that too. People that are either trying to find out more about movies, because you guys will do your own spoiler specific episodes, and you just started doing that like with Infinity Wars, right?
Yes. Yep.
But I mean, like, I won't listen to that one because I haven't seen Infinity Wars. But as soon as I see that,
Yeah.
I'm going to download
You gotta
it.
check it out. Yeah.
But like, you know, you've talked about Black Panther, you've talked about all the really like famous ones, and even the smaller ones you've seen on Netflix,
Yeah.
like ones that, you know, aren't in theaters but also there on Amazon Prime and stuff like that.
For sure.
So, like, I mean, that's one of the things I love about it. And also, you know, the nostalgia. Like, there's the nostalgia talking about older movies and older video games. Like, you guys do a lot of talking about, like, Fortnite and PUBG, but, like, also talking about the video games we grew up with.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the classics, like Super NES, NES, you know,
Well,
Sega.
yeah, I mean, we're all like 90s kids. We kind of grew up right in the peak of that, you know what I mean? Like N64 and Super Nintendo and stuff. Like that's like some of the greatest, most fun video games that ever came out. Like people were having a great time. So we kind of grew up right in that space. So anytime we can kind of take a trip down memory lane and like think about how awesome those were.
Yeah, we were kids.
We're gonna talk about it. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
So I had to take my dog's urine sample to the vet office. Yeah,
I like where this is
off the
going.
board. Yeah, this is clearly right on topic. So they're like, yeah, it's going to take 15, 20 minutes. So in the plaza where the vet is a GameStop or Game Craze or one of those game places.
Yeah.
And I was looking around and just looking at games, and it was just like nostalgia, like N64, like Atari, Jaguar, Sega Saturn. I mean, everything. So, I mean, I'm talking to the guy, and I was like, you know, what's more popular nowadays? Is it more the nostalgia? Is it more the newer stuff? And he's like, honestly, both. He's like, but people don't usually come to us because you can download games now.
You can, yeah.
Whereas, like, you know,
There's
they
like
want to come.
emulators and stuff. You can get all that stuff for free now, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I mean, it was a time in your life that, like, you just kind of, you know, you gravitate to and you think back to. Like, I'm psyched for when the NES Classic and the Super NES Classic come out this next month. I know the NES Classic came out, but it was kind of sold out really quickly.
Is that the console that has like 100 games already preloaded?
The built-in,
yeah.
And stuff like that, just reliving that nostalgia, and they're going to sell like crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was interesting talking to the guy, and do you remember? So this is kind of off the board, but do you remember trying to sell games back to like a GameStop?
Oh my God. I remember. Yeah, when in like my teenage years, I'd be like, when I was done with a game, you go back to GameStop and you get like 50 cents. and then they put the sticker back on it for like 25
$25, yeah.
And you're like, dude, what are you doing?
You're like, I bought it for $50 yesterday. I
Yeah.
just beat it. I'm selling it back.
Well, you opened the case, and now it's only worth $11. Sorry.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I know, it's all bullshit. Yeah.
It reminds me of like college textbooks, right?
Oh, it's the same thing. It's the same racket,
It's
for
the same
sure.
racket.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
$200 for this textbook. Okay, well, I'm done with the semester. Time to sell it back. We'll give you $11.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, wait.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And next
Yeah.
semester they sell it for like 185. You know?
Yeah.
Jeez. I remember thinking that too. Like, this is such BS. So it brought me back to some good things and some bad things. But one of the podcasts I like that you guys did, you did a hilarious one, hilarious April Fool's one called Hot Crochet, which is one of my favorites in my podcast list. Which I would suggest listening to other podcasts they do before that one because it's awesome. It's one of my favorite podcasts of any podcast. And it's not just because you're on the podcast. I'm saying this. Like it was legitimately funny.
Thanks.
I was listening to it in my Cuban laughing.
That was probably the most fun I've had recording an episode so far. Just because, I mean, first off, we played it like it wasn't an April Fool's joke. So we just kind of subverted what we normally talk about and just talked about like the douchiest things you could possibly think of. Like we talk about.
You went full Kardashian.
We went full Kardashian. We talked about like I literally pulled, and the crazy thing was like all the news stories we covered was literally headlines I pulled from TMZ the day before, like who bit Beyonce and Chrissy, not Chrissy Teigen.
Kylie Jenner.
Kylie Jenner said she just wants to be a really hot Instagram mom. Like those are real headlines today, and it was blowing my mind because I'm like. This is news people consume, and so we just decided to talk about it. We talked about vaping.
Yeah, vaping. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We talked about and then Matt brought.
It was like I'm blowing smoke into my. He's a teacher. He's like I like to blow smoke in my kids' faces.
In my face. Yeah.
Just to show I'm cool.
We went into a whole segment about crochet and like different stitches on crochet. Like we just completely. Just left turn the whole thing, and it was fun. It was super fun. Yeah,
that was a good one. That was a funny one. But then you also did something really interesting about like, which I've often thought about is rock dead? You guys talked about, like is rock as we know it, as we grew up with it, is it dead or is it still out there?
Yeah,
which I won't spoil it, but it's really good. It made me think a lot about that. So that was a really good one. So yeah, it's a great podcast. If you guys haven't listened to it, check it out. It's on everything, right, Nick? It's on.
Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes,
TuneIn, iHeartRadio,
Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Yep, it's on all that.
It's on everything. So we are in the process of creating an ultimate Bills tailgate playlist on our YouTube page. So we're on YouTube, and I thought it would be cool to create a playlist that was driven by fans and that they're at a tailgate. It's like, hey, let's freaking rock out.
Yeah.
Like there are certain songs you always hear, and then there are certain songs where you're just like, that. So let's talk about that real quick. Obviously, you're a music guy. We talked about music.
For sure.
What kind of music do you think would be good to hear at like a tailgate? You're talking September. It's beautiful out. You're drinking with your buddies, your girls.
So a couple of things. So when you're building a tailgate playlist, you got to think about the vibe you want, right? So first off, couple of recommendations I have is you have to make it an enjoyable of atmosphere as possible, right? So you're not.
So you're talking like slow.
Yeah, obviously.
Really emotional.
A lot of Brian McKnight.
Right, Brian McKnight. Some really just slow.
Yeah.
Slow jams.
So you want to make it fun. But you don't want to go too hard. You're not in a nightclub, right? You're not bumping and grinding on people. Well, depends on what part of the area of Bill's Mafia you're hanging out with. You might be jumping into tables, but you're not at a club. You can clearly see people. You're not in a dark nightclub. You don't need to go too hard on the rap and hip hop and you can have all that stuff. Just I think your song selection has to be.
This isn't
good.
A dance club.
It's not exactly. It's not a dance club.
This is a drinking
Yeah, it's a fun.
It's a fun.
Think of it as like a 4th of July party, like that kind of atmosphere.
Yes,
People are just hanging out, having a good time. You want something in the background that's you're gonna
catch
like
your not
ear.
Bob Marley 4th of July, not like Jammin' Man. Or are you thinking?
Again,
wait,
depends on what part of the parking lot you're in. You know what I mean? No, you can definitely have. I'm not. There's no genre that's excluded from a tailgate playlist.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You want to have a good mix of everything. I just think you can't go like hardcore gangster rap like
Yeah.
over there. Like if you're too hard, people are like, oh, these
Yeah.
guys. I don't know if these guys are for me.
He's a
At
little
the same
too hard, yeah.
Yeah, don't play Slipknot. You know what I mean? No hardcore metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
No
yeah.
screamo.
Yeah.
You want something? You know, I'm thinking like 90s alternative we mentioned before.
Yeah.
That's perfect. You know, and I'm not talking about like some of the slower Google Doll songs or whatever.
Not Incubus.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to.
not Incubus. You know, I'm talking about maybe some like Third Eye Blind, some
Yes.
like the peppier songs. I'm talking, some of the Strokes or Reptilia from the Strokes. You know, and I'm throwing songs out there that people forget about. You know what I mean? Like that are good songs people might know about, but they would never think to put on a playlist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm talking. There's a great band I brought up on the podcast the other day called Greta Van Fleet. It's like the second coming of Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
They got this song called Safari Song. That's an awesome song. Put it on there. I personally like some Queens of the Stone Age. Great background music. In terms of some country, this is kind of a cliche one.
Whoa, country! You got some nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Parking Lot Party.
I
by Lee
love that
Brice.
one.
I mean,
love
that's
that one.
essential, right?
Yes.
You got to put that on there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If you're partying with Bill's Mafia, absolutely no Bon Jovi. You play Bon Jovi, you're gonna get shot.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a couple wings thrown at you.
Yeah.
Or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's saying something. That's not giving Wings enough credit. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I know.
No
Bon Jovi sucks.
Yeah.
I used to love him. Well, not love him, but like him as much as any
Yeah.
normal person can love Bon Jovi. But he's a piece of shit. But
Yeah.
fuck him. But
Probably if you're timing
Parking Lot Party, by the way, like so I'm gonna eventually be on your podcast to talk about country
Yeah,
music.
absolutely. Yep.
That's one of the actually on my tailgate playlist on my iPhone.
Oh, is it?
Is Parking Lot Party by Lee
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a great one.
It is a great one, yes.
So-
it's
so-
one of the few, and we'll talk about this on my podcast, but it's one of the few country songs I actually like. I have a very tumultuous, is that the right word with country? Tumultuous relationship?
I'm about to teach you something. You're about to learn, son. I'm going to teach you a little bit about
Good,
country.
I hope so. You know what? 'Cause,
See,
but
it's just all about exposure. It's just like anything.
Yeah.
It's all about exposure because I used to hate country music.
yes.
And then I was exposed to a few good songs. You're like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're not all shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you listen to it a little bit more, and
Yeah.
you're just like, okay. So, but anyway,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead. So you said that song. What other songs?
Yeah,
because I'm gonna post. By the way, I'm gonna post all of these songs on our Twitter page to vote on. So even though you think that this Reptilia is an amazing song,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let the Twitter Circling the Wagons
Okay.
podcast community
Yeah.
decide if
And
if it's more than 50% yes,
Yeah.
it goes on.
Listen, and these aren't set in stone picks. Like, I'm just giving you like.
Oh, don't back out of it now, man.
No, I'm just saying.
Don't
like,
pussy out of it.
I'm not trying to tell people like, oh, you need to have this on your.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but because people have different tastes, things change.
Yeah.
So No Diggity, Blackstreet.
Okay.
You know,
Oh, yeah,
obviously,
classic.
You got to have that. And then, of course, when you're getting closer to game time, you got to put on the shout song just to get everyone, everyone hype. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. So like, and then also, you know, being in, like I said, 90s kid, I grew up in the era of Tony Hawk and all that in those games. So like, a lot of punk music is like
Blink?
staple, like Blink.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm like Taking Back Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You can throw some like Goldfinger in there for those who even know who Goldfinger is. You know,
Who doesn't know who
kind of that old school skater punk
Yeah.
kind of vibe. A little bit of the emo punk kind of vibe. Like that is just, I think that's like perfect summer music right there.
Absolutely.
So, like anything like that, you're golden.
Yeah.
You're golden.
Cool. So what are the songs that you had? Greta Van Fleet. You had Safari Song.
Yep.
You had what was it? Reptilia by
The Strokes.
The Strokes. Okay.
I did. Yep.
Okay.
I had,
Cool. Some of these I haven't heard of. I didn't learn about Greta Van Fleet until I heard your podcast.
Yeah.
So it's 100%
Ooh,
just like Led Zeppelin, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
I love classic rock. I mean, 90s alternative classic rock. Like
Yep. There's a great Canadian rock band too that just came out. Well, they've been out for a while, but they're starting to get real popular right now. They're called The Glorious Sons.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend them. They're very good. And then obviously, you know, I didn't mention a lot of rap and hip hop. You can, I mean, your staples. I mean, everyone knows who Drake is. He's got some good hits. That's perfect.
Dude, Started from the Bottom. Is that the
Yeah,
one? Dude.
yeah. That one, like,
Big
you
fan.
got. You know, some of the Future out there is really good.
Okay.
That's one of those I would call them a fringe one. Some of those are a little too hard. What the topics he sings about maybe are probably not the best for a tailgate. But like other ones, I mean, they get you hyped. The beat in the background, especially in trap music right now, is just so good. If anything, rap has going for it, it's the quality of the beats and the music behind
Yes.
the vocals right now. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Yeah.
So real quick, I agree 100% with what you just said about the fact that like it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like you could listen to a rap song.
Yeah.
And it could be amazing, and you could listen to
And jump to a country song.
To a country song, exactly,
Yeah,
and it would
yeah.
still make an amazing tailgate.
Yes,
Whereas, like if
absolutely.
you were like at a dance club, like you could only do one. You could literally.
Yeah.
You're very confined.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas this, you do. Can you explain to me? I know you said it on one of your podcasts. What is trap music?
Okay. It's just it's the style of rap that's going on right now. It kind of has there's some, so the origins of trap music, it kind of, you know, from people who live in poverty, in like ghettos and like rundown houses or whatever. They live the hard life, right? So that music is meant to kind of show an example of that harder lifestyle. So people are making drugs in their homes, you know what I mean? So that's where the trap comes in. You know, they have to make drugs and sell them to make a living. So that's where trap music kind of comes from. And they usually have the melody or the main like through line of it is kind of very eerie, and it's usually sampled from like horror movies or something like that to kind of show the horrors of the trap lifestyle. And then they've done something with the hi-hat and the beats, and they kind of go like that, and that's kind of like it's very, you'll know it as soon as you hear it. That's kind of a trap staple. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So you're talking guys like Future. You're talking guys like, oh God, I'm blanking now that I'm on the spot. Like
no pressure.
Migos right now, who's popular. I'm trying to think of the more popular ones for the audience.
A lot of SoundCloud rappers.
Yeah. I mean, those sounds are being sampled a lot right now in SoundCloud rappers. So, there's a ton of them out there. I mean, it's so. I mean, probably people are screaming, listening to this right now, going like, "Are you idiot? It's this guy." It's super popular right now. It's being used all over the place. Yeah,
Cool.
So.
Yeah, I appreciate you. What were you gonna say?
No, I had another artist pop into my head.
Dude.
There's another rap duo out there who I really like right now called Run the Jewels.
Run the
And
Jewels.
they have a song called Legend Has It, and they have another song called Run the Jewels.
Okay.
And it's two guys. It's Killer Mike, and I forget the other guy's name. But they're really sweet. I love them.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Yeah. Alan and I are a big fan of like rap groups, like really like the old school rap groups, like Wu-Tang Clan or NWA. You know,
the groups,
the groups, not just the single guys, but like the groups. We think it's really cool when you get like the different voices in there, and you get the different personalities, and they're kind of rapping together. So it's kind of like the new age rap duo is
Bone Thugs.
Like Bone, yeah, exactly. Bone Thugs, man, they're awesome. Yeah, I'm a big old school rap guy.
Yeah. Montel Jordan, this is how we do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, is it too old school?
Big Willie style, you know.
I saw something on I saw something on Facebook. It was like 20 years ago. This is how we do it came out, or 25 years ago. And I'm just like, I just want to shoot myself.
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Yeah.
This is how we do it. Cool. Oh, by the way, speaking of SoundCloud and rappers and stuff like that, the intro song to your podcast is like one of the catchiest songs. I know one of your co-hosts. I was Matt created
Matt,
it.
yep.
It's sick, man. It's like
Thanks,
like I want to download it. I want to put it on my iPod.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's so really I'll leave you guys with that. If you guys should definitely check out Nick's podcast, the Torrent. It's called. Where can they find your pod? We talked about where they can find your podcast. Where can they follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, we're on Twitter and Facebook. You just search for @thetorrentpod, or I'm sure if you just type in the Torrent Podcast on either one, it'll pop right up. And then you can also email us at the Torrent Podcast @gmail.com. So if you got some song recommendations, if you want to yell at me because I can't remember my rap at this current moment, you can do so. If you got some more songs for the playlist, we'll pass it along. We'll give you the shout out for sure.
Nice. Definitely recommend listening to that. Also, like we mentioned earlier, you can check out our Nick's / our artwork at tpublic, facebook.com/stores/CTW pod. And just check out our artwork. Let us know what you guys think of it. I mean, even if you don't purchase it or whatever, I just liked some feedback on it. We think it's amazing, but you guys might have some suggestions. So let us know. Nick, it's been great talking to you. Thanks
for having me on again,
It's
man.
been, dude, this hour and change has just flown right by.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of stuff. We covered Bills, Sabres, the new logo, your podcast, music, teenage angsty yearbook.
Yeah, yearbook quotes.
Yearbook quotes for ex-girlfriends that were... I still think about it every day, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. No, man, it's been really good talking to you. So you know how I end the podcast because you listen to it. So for Nick,
go Bills.
And for me, Nate, go Bills. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks. Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod @gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.